Good morning, Southwest kids. So glad you're here this morning. We are going to be studying about Abraham and how faithful he is to God and see how we can be faithful as well. We are going to be studying around the chapters of Genesis 21 and 22. This week, if you want to have daily Bible readings, I would read out of Genesis 22. Read just maybe a few verses a day, but that would be a great way to remember about our story and how faithful Abraham is to God and how we can have lots of faith in God. If you look outside, do you see the trees swaying or the leaves rustling? What is that? What's causing that? Yes, it's the wind. And can we see the wind? No, we can't see the wind, but we have faith, don't we? That it's the wind that is causing the trees to sway and the leaves to rustle. And so yeah, we have faith that it's the wind, even though we can't see it. Abraham, when Christians think of faith, we think of Abraham. It must be very important to God for us to learn about the life of Abraham because he is mentioned 233 times in the Old Testament and 74 times in the New Testament. This is one way to describe Abraham. He was a friend of God. What a wonderful way to be described. Wouldn't we all like to be written in the history books as a friend of God? If you want to read extra, James 2:23 or Isaiah 41:8 and 2 Chronicles 27 go along with being a friend of God. Important. Abraham was an important and well-respected man in the town where he lived. He was very rich, and he must have been a successful and important businessman since he had so many servants and many possessions, a lot of land and lots of livestock. He was also well known. Abraham is a name that is known and respected all over the world. Abraham lived around 4,000 years ago, and people still know him and talk about him. And then also a man of faith. The greatest lesson we can learn from Abraham is we must have faith because we can't know our Lord and get to heaven without it. Have any of y'all had to move schools or move to a different town? And when you did that, you just had to have faith that you were going to find a new friend. If you moved to a new town, you were going to have faith that you were going to find a new church family. You had to have faith that everything was going to be okay. Well, Abraham's story begins with his move with the rest of his family from Ur, an ancient southern Babylonian, in Genesis 11:31. Abraham and his family moved north and settled in Haran, several hundred miles to the northwest. While living in Haran at the age of 75, Abraham received a call from God to go to a strange, unknown land that God would show him. The Lord promised Abraham that he would make of him his descendants a great nation. That's in Genesis 12:1-3. The promise must have seemed unbelievable to Abraham because of his wife Sarah, called Sarai, in the early part of the story, was childless. Genesis 11:30-31, and also in 17:15. When Abraham trusted and obeyed God with no hint of doubt or disbelief because of his faith, he did what God asked of him. He took his wife and his nephew Lot and he went to the land that God would show him. So when he moved to an unknown place, Abraham had to have faith in God. All right, have any of your parents ever said, if you'll clean your room, I promise to get you an icy or a snow cone or an ice cream cone? We just had to have faith, didn't we? That they were going to follow through and get us that snow cone or ice cream cone or icy. We just had to have faith in them because they told us, didn't we? Well, Abraham and his nephew Lot, they quarreled over pasture lands and they decided to go their separate ways. And that's in Genesis 13, 8 through 9. Lot settled in the Jordan River Valley, a fateful mistake, while Abraham moved into Canaan. While this split, God again promised Abraham, look now towards the heaven and count the stars if you are able to number them. And he said to him, so shall your descendants be. And Abraham believed in the Lord, and God accounted it to him for righteousness. And that's in Genesis 15, 5 and 6. So Abraham had God's promise, and he just had to have faith in that promise that God had given him. And finally, when Abraham was 100 years old, his wife Sarah was 90 years old, and they had a son. Abraham was thrilled to have a son, and God wanted to be sure that Abraham loved him more than anyone. He tested Abraham and Abraham's faith. God asked Abraham to kill his own son. Abraham did not want to do this, but he trusted God enough to obey him. We know that God stopped Abraham just before he killed Isaac. And it just took love and obedience and faith on the part of Abraham. So, how do we today have faith? We've learned about Abraham in the Bible from the Old Testament, but how about today? How do we have faith today in our day and time? Well, your faith in God will be tested many times in your life. Abraham's story reminds us how to be faithful to God. He trusted God enough to obey and to love him without question. Abraham was the father of the Hebrews, and we are also the children of Abraham because he is the spiritual father to all of us who believe in Jesus. He is our model of faith from Hebrews 11. And in the Bible, the Lord is often referred to as the God of Abraham. So we just need to use these examples that we read in the Bible to have faith for us today. So why the story of Abraham and Sarah is important to us. Faith means obeying God, even when we don't understand why. He is asking us to do something. Surely Abraham didn't grasp God's promise or understand he had a plan that he would take generations to come true. Remember, there is one story in the Bible, and it is Jesus and God's plan for man and salvation. And that's in Genesis 12, 1 through 9, 22, 1 through 18, Hebrews 11, 17 through 19. Following God should drastically change our relationship to the world in which we live. It may even mean severing ties with friends and family which we're friends with or family members. And that's in Genesis 12:1 and Romans 12:2. Taking matters into our own hands can cause problems for us as well as others. And that Genesis 16:21. And that's chapter 21 and 8 through 21. Not only did Sarah have trouble believing or others, at least remembering God's promise, she tried to help him and then blamed others when her actions caused problems. We need to always consult God and trust in him. Righteousness comes by faith, not by works. Genesis 15:6. Focusing on eternity will help us endure the hard times in life. Hebrews 11:8-10. Abraham believed in God, so God declared him to be righteous. And that's in Romans 4:3 and in Genesis 15:6. Okay, so to help you remember to have faith and to trust God today, and we're going to do a little project. Get you a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen or a marker or whatever you want to do. But we are going to draw a picture of a frog, and the frog is going to remind us to fully rely on God, okay? And that's what the F, the R, O, and the G stand for, fully rely on God. So I'm gonna help you draw a frog. Everybody got your pencil and paper and markers ready? Okay. First thing you're gonna do is you're gonna draw 2 small circles for the eyes, okay? Okay, and then you're gonna put a dot in the center of him for his eyeball. I'll scoot this forward so you can see a little bit better. All right, then you're gonna draw an oval, okay? The oval will start about in the middle of the eye, and you will draw it around to the other side, okay? And then you'll kind of tie it together in between. All right, and then you're gonna draw a smiley face. All right, and then underneath the eyes, you're gonna draw 2 straight lines. All right. Then you're going to draw an upside down M. That's his feet. All right. And then about the center of the frog, you're going to draw another oval. Okay. And that's going to be his body. All right. We're about ready to draw his back legs. It's going to be like a number 2. Okay. So you about start here and draw a 2, okay? And then you'll draw another light down there, and then you're gonna go to the other side and draw backwards 2, okay? And then you're gonna do another upside down M or W for the feet. All right, and then to have his legs bend, you gotta have put a line there and a line there, okay? And there's your frog. And then you can write underneath of it, F.R.O.G. And remember to fully rely on God. Y'all have a great week.